Welcome to Life-Giving Conversations with Thobeka Dlamini. Thank you so much for tuning in. We had a great time with our previous video unpacking the issue of communication and just combating some of the things that we are doing wrong, in terms of communication within our relationships. And so this is part 2, and we're going to be touching on how to improve our communication skills and some of the things that we probably need to be actively looking at in terms of changing the way we do them. And we don't just want to highlight the things that we are doing wrong, but we also want to equip in terms of what is the right approach when it comes to communication, either within a marriage, within a relationship, or within a family. I think these things go beyond your spouse. If we polish this area of our lives, we actually are able to have healthy relationships with people, and we actually we can actually preserve some relationships, and we can have, we can enjoy healthy relationships right round. And so this video is not, I believe, just about marriages, but also just as a person, as you integrate into society, as you meet different people from different walks of life, you can be in a position to actually apply some of these principles, and they can work for you within whatever relationships that you are in. And so do allow me to just point out these few pointers, and we have a look at what we can improve on. It is a skill. We can improve on it as we can learn a few things. We can improve on it as we go through life, and we can learn from our mistakes and become better communicators. And so within the context of the marriage, it's very, very important that when we communicate, we consider these 5 things. And so point number 1, we're looking at the issue of timing. Timing is very important when you are communicating. What do I mean by timing? There are certain times in the day or certain environments that make communication more difficult than it would be under normal circumstances. And so it's very important that we are cognizant of that, and we actually target certain times in terms of communicating, especially sensitive things, especially things that need people to think, that need people to think those things through, or whatever the case may be, or any complex matter. It's always important to choose a good time to communicate. And so timing is everything. We should set the tone for those type of conversations, and it makes communication easier. First of all, we should not communicate anything sensitive or heavy emotionally when a person is tired. Now, we know that people have busy lifestyles. Sometimes they're coming back from work, they've had a day and a half, they've got issues from work, they've got deadlines, they've got all sorts of things that are going on at work. And the worst time to communicate anything sensitive or anything that needs a decision is when a person is tired from whatever activity. It could be at the end of the day, or it could be in the morning, but a person has just gone through a very hectic time, and now you are trying to communicate something that they cannot be able to absorb. Firstly. Secondly, they are not able to process and think it through at that time. Thirdly, when people are tired, they become slightly irritable. Their thought process is not as sharp as it is when they are not tired. So it's very important that we get the timing of our communication right, especially within our unions. Firstly, we know that women are quite relational in relationships, and sometimes a person wants to communicate something that is important when the man of the house has just walked into the house, and they now want to communicate whatever the case is, and you find that a man feels like, okay, I need to first rest in my house before I can have issues coming up or problems to solve, because I'm already from a world that is full of problems. So I don't want to reach my house and just the first encounter when I walk through the door is another problem to solve or another issue to discuss. So timing is everything. Let's try and refrain from discussing things when we are tired. Secondly, timing in terms of, it's also an issue of the physiological. Trying to communicate something that is sensitive or important when somebody is hungry can also be, a very bad thing to do. It might have really bad results, because when people are hungry, they are also irritable. When people are hungry, some people can't think straight. Some people, when they are hungry, their minds are on the first need at that time, which would be the hunger, which is to fulfill that need. So they are not really interested about anything else that is going around. So again, if you are going to discuss something that is sensitive, something that is important, try and allow the person to first have something to eat and actually be in a relaxed mode to be able to hear you out and not shut you out. So timing is everything in terms of expressing what is within our hearts or any form of communication. Of course, I'm now relating it to things that are important or things that are sensitive. Usually people choose the wrong time and get a very negative response at that time. Okay, then some couples do prefer to talk after sexual intimacy. Couples are not the same. Some people are more relaxed after sexual intimacy. Some people, they prefer to shut down and sleep after sexual intimacy. But that is also a good time to raise issues that are probably affecting both of you, or they need your attention. And the worst time to raise any sensitive matter is before any sexual intimacy or any emotional intimacy. Most of the time when that happens, it actually spoils the mood of the house. It spoils the whole mood of whatever you are trying to achieve at that time. And so timing is very, very important. Then we're moving on to the issue of tone. Most of us do have the right thing to say. Most of us do have the right analogy and the right analysis of whatever is going on within the marriage or outside of the marriage, whatever the case is that we are dealing with. But usually you find that the tone in which we speak in is very wrong. And I know that usually when we talk about tone and respect, we usually address women, and that's just a cultural thing that women are not supposed to talk back, or women are not supposed to raise their tone. But I believe that tone is important. My conviction is that tone is important on both sides. If as a man your tone is harsh and your tone is impatient, it already sets a pace for what is going to happen in that conversation. And so I believe that tone is important. You can raise the right thing, but if you raise it with the wrong tone, it will not be received and it will not be analyzed right. It will be seen as an attack, more than an intelligent contribution in whatever situation that you are facing, whatever you have to address. And the Bible is very clear on a gentle answer, turning away wrath, and then our harsh words, they stir up anger. And so it's very important to have the right tone when we approach each other, whether you are male or female. The tone of respect and the tone that you set in that conversation actually determines whether you will reach a solution or not reach a solution. Okay, then within whatever communication that you are having with your partner, it's very important to allow expression of emotion or feelings. Allow the expression of emotion or feelings. There are very unhealthy relationships where people cannot raise their perceptions or their emotions or their feelings or their views when it comes to certain things, and you end up having people that are time ticking bombs, staying in one house, just waiting for the next move, and then they explode. It's very important in a communication, in the communication that you have with your spouse or with your partner, to actually give them room to express what is happening to them or within them without interruption. Because I always say that a person will not raise a challenge or a problem if it was not affecting them. And so sometimes in relationships we tend to tell people how to feel. We tend to belittle how people are viewing things at that time, and that closes them off emotionally. And next time you have to discuss something with your spouse, you find that they are shut in, they are not really willing to be expressive about how they are experiencing your whole marriage and how are they experiencing your day-to-day lives. And so allow expression, even if it's uncomfortable. Once the tone is right, allow the expression. Usually most conversations don't allow expression because the tone is already wrong. So once the tone is right, you allow expression, no matter how uncomfortable it is. If a person is saying, this is how I feel in this relationship, I feel disrespected, or I feel neglected, or these are my experiences being with you as a spouse, you allow that expression. You don't become defensive. You allow them to voice it, and maybe if you can, you ask further questions. Why do you feel like that? Why are you experiencing it like that? Then in that way, you are able to get a full picture of what is happening and find possible solutions for your union. And then I want to refer to this point of taking ownership of your contribution towards the problem. Very, very important. One of the the ways that you can tell that somebody is emotionally intelligent is when you can have a situation where a complex issue is being discussed and a person is able to immediately say, you know what, I realize that I've wronged you by doing 1, 2, 3, and this is why you've reacted this way. I will fix the way I do this next time, or I will adjust the way I do. I was not aware this is how this is affecting you. And so this is usually a dissolver of a lot of arguments. I don't know how to express this to you even more deeply, to say that sometimes, not shifting blame to your spouse and actually acknowledging your own faults and or your own shortcomings dissolves more arguments, than it would take for you to fight something that you really are, at fault for. And that builds resentment when it comes to your spouse, because it says to your spouse that you have not acknowledged that you have wronged me, and chances are you are going to continue that behavior at my expense. And so people never really understand how deep these things go, that acknowledgement of your wrongs and acknowledgement of your participation or contribution towards the problem actually dissolves more heartache, because you are taking ownership of what you have done wrong, or you are taking ownership of how you might have contributed to that situation. And then last but not least, I want us to now look at, this is the biggest one. That's why I left it for last, because this is where we we get it wrong on a lot of levels, and this is where most marriages have failed. Focus on the solution. I've already spoken about the expressing of emotions, and I want us to understand that when it comes to communication, males and females are very, very different. When we communicate, women want to express their emotions. They want to paint the whole big picture of what they've just undergone. As for males, they prefer to identify the problem and find solutions. And sometimes this is the clash that we have when it comes to our relationships, is that whilst the female is expressing emotions, the male already wants to give solutions without acknowledging the depth of that problem. And I want to urge most men out there all over the world to try it just once and see that if it's not going to work. But allow expression of emotion, acknowledge that emotion that that person is going through. Then you wait a bit and allow them as well to ask you for solutions, because remember, sometimes we want to rush to the solutions without realizing where things went wrong and without realizing the damage of whatever has happened. And I'm talking now with even serious issues within our marital unions. People rush to say, okay, what can we do, without really acknowledging the damage that has been caused by that particular behavior. And that happens a lot in issues of infidelity, or in issues of anything that goes horribly wrong in the marriage, and people just want to brush over it without really going back to the source and saying, this is what has happened, this is how it has affected us, okay, how do we move on from this point? And so my last point for this video is just to say that after you have expressed your emotions, you cannot express your emotions forever. At some point, you need to find a way forward and focus on the solutions. This is where where most couples get stuck, because they always want to stay in the problem and not be able to say, how do we move forward? What are the solutions? And I really do urge, especially the males within the relationship, to really be the sober ones in following certain orders in relation to communication, because you are the one that is the leader of the family, and you are the one that must actually show direction, that okay, I can understand that this is what has happened within our union. I can understand that this is probably these are the things we are facing in our union, but these are the possible solutions. How about we try this? How about we do this? We do not leave conflict or communication within relationships. We do not leave anything hanging. We do not leave anything hanging, because anything that is hanging will at some point resurrect, will at some point explode in one way or another. So in healthy communication, that is what we do. We check the timing of the communication. When am I communicating it? We check the tone of the communication. And then we allow expression, meaning we give room, we give a safe space for a person to express how they feel. And then we then take ownership of whatever we might have done to contribute to that problem. And then last but not least, we then focus on solutions. I always say that the reason why so many marriages are, literally struggling in this area of communication is because most of these issues are left at the blaming game. They are not left at what is it that we can do, what solution do we have. So it ends up being one against the other. And I always say that if you are in a relationship where your communication is always about beating the other spouse down, you are actually on a self-sabotage mission, because 2 is better than 1, and you are supposed to receive a double reward for your labor, or whatever that you are busy with, or whatever that you are pursuing in this life. And what happens is that if you are working against your spouse, or being the one that is inflicting pain and frustration on your spouse, you are actually on a sabotage road, and you will wonder why you feel like you are going through life alone. You are feeling lonely because the one person that has been sent to help you, whether you are male or female, or the one person that has been sent to nurture you, has now detached from you. Though you are in the same house, but the communication channels are not healthy. And so you can feel the gap, because that person was assigned to make you better. That person was assigned to lift you up. That person was assigned to keep you warm when you are cold. That person was, because life is cold. Life is full of complications. And so every person who is married, who has a partner, really does deserve to come to a home where there's healthy communication channels, and where things can be discussed through without judgment, without anger outbursts, without shifting of blame, but we can focus on the possible solutions. And so I hope with this short broadcast that you are able to just do a survey and reflect on your relationship, and check whether you can unlearn the toxic tendencies of communication and actually adopt the things that do work. And I believe that if 2 people are willing to learn and and work on these things, these are like skills, just like work. If you can improve on the skills for your job or for whatever that you are doing, you can also improve on the skills that can make your relationship work at home. And so we need to be balanced in that manner, that we don't just sharpen our claws in the things that we're supposed to be doing professional and otherwise, but we also sharpen our claws in how we can run our relationships better. And so I hope that you're going to share this with as many people as possible, and also please do subscribe. And I'm looking forward to our next videos. I cannot wait for next time. Thank you so much.